In 1999, the third most visited platform on the internet was a web hosting service known as GeoCities. During its lifespan, many users would use this platform to create reflections of their personalities, careers, and interests. You could find web pages about someone's adventures through Egypt, an archdruid's biography about studying pagan magics and divination, or even random bucket salesmen. Then, in 2009, Yahoo pulled the plug and all 38 million web pages were removed. Thankfully, some were archived, and in this series I'll be taking a look back at the ones recovered. If you are interested in checking out any of the pages I showcase today, the usernames will be at the top before each reading. Welcome to GeoCity Dive, Episode 2. First one comes from 5Kevin5 and their adventures through Egypt dating back to 1999. Hi, I'm Kevin, and welcome to my Egypt trip homepage. This trip was from January 28th to February 10th, 1999. I was with the Kontiki tour for 9 days and on my own for 5 days. And this is the Kontiki group right here and all the people that were involved. Day 1. The day is January 29th. I flew from Pearson International to Toronto and Frankfurt, Germany. The flight was delayed in Toronto for about an hour or two due to ice and snow. It took approximately 7 or 8 hours to get from Toronto to Frankfurt. Because of the delay, I missed my connecting flight to Cairo by about an hour. I finally managed to leave Germany about 6 hours later. The flight to Cairo took about 5 hours. I paid for a single room but got stuck with my roommate for the tour, Grant, who also paid for a single room for the night before the tour started. He was sleeping before I arrived. He wasn't amused and neither was I. The garden area in front of our room with the lobby in the background. And this is our room, the middle one. Day 2. This morning I met Vicky, who is on the tour and from Sydney, Australia. The three of us decided to go to the museum in Cairo, because with the tour tomorrow, we'll only have about an hour or so to see things. We get our taxi out in front of the hotel. The driving in Egypt, especially Cairo, is chaotic to say the least. There seems to be no rules when driving in the city, hardly any traffic lights or stop signs. The ones that are there either don't work or are obscured by trees, and nobody obeys them anyway. Same goes with the pedestrians. You cross the road when you can, and hope you don't get hit. After battling traffic for about 45 minutes or so, we finally arrive at the museum. After exploring the museum, we had to find a ride back to the hotel. Out in front of the museum are taxi drivers trying to get people to hire them. We were approached by one man who wanted way too much for a lift back. We haggled with him for about 5 minutes. Well, actually, Vicky did. She has a talent for negotiating and usually ends up paying half of what everyone else ends up spending. She saved me money in more than a few situations. This guy doesn't go for it, and we end up getting another driver. His name is Saeed Mahmoud Ahmed. He wants a little more than we're prepared to pay, but he says he'll take us for a drive around the pyramids to get a few nice pictures on the way. We agree, and off we go. We tour around and get a few nice pictures of the pyramids off in the distance. His next tour takes us through little side streets in the city and a closer look at life in Cairo away from the craziness of downtown. I'm sure that most foreigners don't go through these areas, because as we pass through the tiny one-way streets, people stop and stare, or say hello and wave. The people all over Egypt are very nice and always say hi or wave wherever we go. I was surprised by that. Cairo is probably one of the safest cities in the world, even more than Toronto. I think the reason for this is because of the Muslim religion and the strict laws governing the country. After that little tour, Saeed takes us to the Papyrus Institute to show us the technique that ancient Egyptians used to make paper. It was fairly interesting, but the institute was actually a shop where they could persuade us to spend our money. There were a lot of nice papyrus paintings of scenes from famous hieroglyphs. I ended up buying one. It was clear that most of the taxi drivers get a commission for bringing tourists into certain stores. He was nice and helped us out, so we didn't mind. He also stopped to buy us a bag of oranges from a street vendor on the way back as a gift. They were delicious and lasted several days. Back at the hotel that night, we met the rest of our tour group. There are only 10 of us. 8 Australians, 1 American, and myself. The guy that is running the trip is named Wayne. He is also Australian. At 5 a.m. this morning, I was woken by the loudspeakers far off in Cairo blaring the call to prayer, in Arabic of course. It sounds something kind of like this. Now, the call to prayer that you just listened to might be different from the call to prayer that Kevin heard back in 1999. The video was uploaded in 2009. I don't know how often they change these call to prayers in Cairo, I really don't know personally, but it might be different, who knows. This happens 5 times a day in Egypt. It wasn't all that loud, just something different in the morning that I wasn't used to hearing in Canada. After that, I went to the lobby and met 2 guys around the same age as me who worked the check-in desk through the night, Hani and Mohammed, and struck up a conversation with them. They had a lot of questions about Canada and wanted to know about the universities and jobs that are available back home. It turns out that most Egyptians, especially younger people, have a great desire to leave Egypt. They're very upset with the government and lack of opportunities available to them. Kind of reminds me of home. Egypt is more or less a third world country that is almost completely dependent on tourism dollars. They were nice guys, and I learned a lot about life in general in modern day Egypt. We had breakfast and boarded our private bus at around 8 a.m. We met our Egyptian tour guide for the 9 days. His name was Amadeus, his real name was Muhammad, and headed off to the Cairo Museum. I kind of wandered about because Grant, Vicky, and I had been there the previous day so we could see everything. We spent about an hour there compared to the 4 hours when we went on our own. As soon as we get off the bus, we are mobbed by Egyptian men and boys who want to sell us postcards, trinkets, or rides on camels. And they are absolutely relentless. Amadeus told us before we arrived that the best way to avoid them is to just ignore them. Don't say a word to them and no eye contact, or they won't stop bothering you. Even when I followed his advice, there were a few who just wouldn't give up. After getting used to that, it wasn't really that bad. Richard, who is from California, is the type who loves to talk to people, so it was impossible for him to escape some of these people. It was funny to watch as one guy wanted to get on his camel for a picture. He just wouldn't give up. He put a scarf headpiece on him and managed to convince him to get on. I took a picture of this and went on my way, but apparently the guy wouldn't let Rich off the camel, so he had to jump off. I could continue reading about Kevin's 13-day Egyptian adventure for probably the entire duration of the video, but I still have other sites I'd like to show you all as well. I definitely recommend checking out this site if you'd like to read the conclusion though. Thanks for the stories, Kevin. Hope you're doing well out there. (1916D) The Die-Hard Detectorist. My name is Dennis. I live in South Central New Hampshire. This site is a showplace for some of my finds. Metal detecting can be a great hobby if you're willing to spend the time and effort learning it. The truth is, in most cases you will not get rich by detecting. The important thing to remember is not to get discouraged and keep plugging away at it. I can remember when I first started detecting, it took me 4 months to get my first silver coin. Rome wasn't built in a day, neither is skill and knowledge. The Tale of the 16D. On Columbus Day 1995, I went over to my friend Dick's house. He and his son Ricky were looking through a coin book. Ricky had just found a 1919 Mercury dime. I then said, "That's not the coin you want to find. The coin you want is the 1916D Mercury dime." We then made plans to meet 1 hour later at a place we detected before. It was an old trail that meandered through the woods. I arrived there before Dick and started hunting the trail. For some unknown reasons, I wandered off the trail about 50 feet. I got a strong penny dime signal, then pinpointed and my machine told me that the target was 5 inches down. I then dug for the target, pulled it out of the hole. I looked at the coin and saw it was a Mercury dime dated 1916. My heart was pounding with anticipation. Then I said to myself, I hope this coin is a 1916D. I flipped the coin over and to my surprise, there was a D on it. I was jumping up and down like a damn fool that just won the lottery. I then heard Dick arrive, walked towards him yelling, "Guess what I found?" Dick then asked me if I found a gold coin. I said, "No, I found something better." "No, you didn't find a 16D, did you?" "I sure did." Dick couldn't believe it, neither could I. This whole episode makes me wonder why I found a rare coin after talking about it. Strange, isn't it? Well, deep subject. I hope you all enjoy my true story. I only wanted to show you guys this page because that story was really cool to me. That is astronomical odds right there. That is crazy. Amarani. So far in other parts of the universe, man has not been able to find a life similar to the one existing on Earth. This may take place in the future. Man is a social creature, not being able to be alone. Human beings' growth depends on his social life. What we can get through the friendship, beauty, love, peace, and negotiation will never be materialized through hatred, ugliness, war, and abuse. I hope that all of us could be able to live peacefully in this global village and be the witness of increasing developments of life in all of its aspects. I have arranged the data present on my homepage in several sections. I hope that the data will be interesting to you. And here's his biography. I was born on November 13th, 1965. I cannot relate myself to a particular area in Iran since my ancestors lived in northeast of the country. I was born in Gorgan in the north of Iran and lived in Sebzevar, northeast, and Shiraz. I was brought up in Tehran, and at present I live in Esfahan. The first few years of my life were spent in Gorgan, where the climate is very similar to that in Europe, a green territory full of rain and moderate winter. The green space here influenced me to a great extent. I spent my kindergarten period in Sabzevar. I went to Tehran in 1971, and I lived there for about 20 years. My adulthood was when the Islamic Revolution took place, and I tried to participate in the revolution as much as I could. After finishing high school, I went to the military service where I spent 2 years in the war fronts with Iraq. In 1986, my left leg was injured by means of an explosion of a hand grenade, and I could not move with my leg for some times. This caused me to be transferred to the administrative sections, where I was acquainted with accounting, the branch of science I got interested in and later got more experience in the field. I came to Esfahan in 1992, and I've been working in Esfahan municipality as the head of accounting department since then. My children were born in 1995 and 1997, who are Muhammad Javad and Muhammad Riza respectively. Muhammad is the name of our holy prophet, Javad means very generous, and the meaning of Riza is pleased and satisfied. I have been interested in observing the sky since childhood. I remember when I went to Gorgan in the summers, I spent long times in the green valleys talking to Venus during the sunset. I knew the constellations very well, but I didn't have the equipment to see them. I bought a small refraction telescope, which not only provided me with a vast view on astronomy, but also caused me to justify the authorities of Esfahan municipality that space is very beautiful for everybody with different viewpoints. For this purpose, I invited them several times to my house to observe space. After the approval of the mayor of Esfahan, a Abid Astronomical Society was starting to be built. I am very pleased to have succeeded in bringing together some young people interested in science via establishing AAS. Of course, many friends helped me in this regard. I hope that God and the honorable citizens of Esfahan are satisfied about this. And here are the members of the AAS. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of GeoCity Dives. I tried doing a couple things different this time around. Instead of briefly going over a larger handful of sites, I chose to go over a smaller, more interesting batch. If you preferred this formula, leave a like and a comment down below with your thoughts. And if you didn't, leave a dislike with your thoughts as well if you don't mind. And of course, thank you all for watching. Have a good one.